Hi guys, Sister Becky here. I'm excited to have this time with you to talk about a topic that we all deal with. We're going to talk about anger today. Now, you saw the title of this lesson. It's a mad, mad world. And truly, if you see the news or you watch much that goes on in our world right now, you will see a lot of anger taking place. So anger in itself, it's not always a bad thing to be mad, to be upset. In fact, all of us become angry at times. Even Jesus once dealt with being angry at how people were treating his Father's house, and he overturned some tables. The problem with many of us face with anger is not knowing how to deal with it, how to handle it correctly. Because we don't always handle our anger correctly, it can turn into actions that we regret or actions that are wrong. So we're going to look at some of the things that anger can stir up in our life today. We're going to have the help of a handy blizzard and an assistant here. I have my helpful assistant, Addison. She's going to help us out today with looking at some of the parts of anger that we deal with. All right, so the verse that I want us to look at is in Proverbs 16 and 32. It says, "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city." So what that scripture is helping us to understand is that someone that is slow to anger, they can control their anger. They are better than a mighty man. And someone that can rule or control their spirit is greater than someone who can take a city. So strength is not always found in how strong you are or how mighty you are, but how you control your anger and how you can rule over your own emotions and your own anger. So let's look at some parts of anger today with my assistant, Addison. We're going to talk about something that most of us actually usually love, milk. Now, nothing is better than ice cold milk, but what if that milk is sour?
Ew.
Addie, tell us about this milk. Yeah, sour milk is pretty bad. So stay right here, assistant. I'm going to need your help. Sour milk can be pretty bad. When it's good milk, it's good for your bones, it's good for your teeth. But when it goes sour, you don't want anything to do with it. You just want to get rid of it. So let's talk about that. Step one in anger is when you just get sour. Something bothers you. Something turns sour in your mind, your heart. Maybe someone did something to you that was wrong. You feel sour inside, just like this sour milk. Maybe it just bothers you a little bit. But if you don't deal with that sour feeling that you have, it's not going to help the problem at all. So, Addie, go ahead and add our sour milk very carefully to our container here. Yep. And we're going to see how mixing these ingredients of anger turn out. So sour milk is just not a pleasant thing. And sour feelings in our life, they're not pleasant either. Now, if we take sour feelings when we've been done wrong, when we've been hurt, and we get rid of them and we dump them away out of our lives, we're done. We don't deal with it. But if you pour it into your heart and you keep those sour feelings there, that's when the issues start to take place. Because you see, the second step of anger is when you carry your anger with you, you don't get rid of it, and you can't hide it. It starts to show. So to illustrate that, we're going to use some lovely mustard. Now, if you like mustard, one thing you know about it is if you ever get it on your clothes, it's going to stain. If you ever get it on anything cloth, it usually won't come off very easy. It stains. So mustard changes the color of anything that it's in. It completely changes it. Let's see what happens. Add a little bit of mustard to our life here, our heart, Addison. So this mustard now that's in this milk, once we blend this up in our blender, I can guarantee you it's going to turn a yellowish color. So the mustard's going to help us realize that when we don't let go of anger in our life, it will begin to affect all parts of our life, just like this yellow mustard and this white milk. When I blend this together in the blender, and actually let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's see how it affects this milk. So Addie, we're going to go ahead and see what happens with the mustard in the milk.
I smell the mustard. mustard.
You smell the mustard? Mustard has a strong smell as well, doesn't it? All right, let's push it. Oh. Now look at that. You now have a yellow mixture. Why? Because the mustard drastically changed the form of what was going on here. Let your anger, guys, and just leave that right there. Your anger, when you don't deal with it and you just keep it in your heart, pretty soon it begins to affect your whole entire heart. It changes the color, your actions. You know, sometimes other people will be around you and your anger just comes out. Every word you say, it begins to be something that affects your conversation. It affects your choices in life. Maybe someone just asks you to do something and you snap on them. Maybe your friend just kind of said something a little off and you completely just get angry with them. But the truth is, it really wasn't your friend. It really wasn't your mom. It really wasn't your teacher. It was really the anger deep in here that's affecting you because you haven't let go of it, and it's causing you to bust out on everybody and display anger. So anger not dealt with, it becomes a big mess in your life. Let's look at the next step of anger. When you keep anger long enough, it'll start to disappear and hide in your life. You just get used to living with it. It's something that is there, but it's not always visible. It begins to be the secret thing in your life coming out when you least expect it. Matter of fact, you've gotten so used to the anger that you barely even see it anymore. You barely even realize it's there, that it's driving your decisions and your actions. So to demonstrate that, we're going to use corn syrup, because you see, corn syrup is clear. It's easy to disguise it because you don't know it's there. It's pretty much a clear substance. So hold that, Addison. In just a second, we're going to add that. But see, corn syrup is a clear thing you may not know is there. And sometimes with anger, we keep it long enough that we bury it down deep in our heart. And we even forget that it's there. And it's turning into a deep-rooted bitterness because we're not dealing with the anger. And we hide it in our heart. And we are just lashing out at people. It begins to control us. And it begins to be the underlying factor in our life that's affecting things that we never thought that we would do. Add some of that clear liquid to the mix there, Addie. And it's in our life, it's in our heart. We just can't see it's there anymore because we've gotten so used to living with it. All right, that's good. Thank you. Okay. And you see this clear liquid here, this syrup. It kind of, leave it there, Addie. It kind of sunk to the bottom of the container. You see that? Because that's kind of what anger will do. It's something we will pretend it's not there, and it just sinks to the bottom, and it's like it's trying to hide, but yet it's still there. The anger that we've never dealt with is still there. The fourth ingredient, the last ingredient we're going to look at, this is when anger's been in your life long enough that it turns into a bitter, nasty thing in your life. Our fourth ingredient we're going to use, hold that up, assistant, vinegar. Now this is balsamic vinegar, and if you know anything about balsamic vinegar, it has a very, very bitter smell and a taste. Smell that, Addie. What does it smell like? Not her favorite scent. And I can tell you, it's a very bitter, pungent smell. Well, that's the final steps of anger. The final steps of anger is that it turns into a bitterness and a contempt in your life, a very ugly, bitter thing. And your anger that you've not dealt with, that you've hidden away, it'll begin to be something so rotten, so sour, that it's leading you to terrible actions in your life. You begin to act out on your anger, and it begins to create problems for you and in your community and in your family because you haven't dealt with anger. So we're going to add some of this anger that's bitter and turns into hate and contempt. We're going to go ahead and add that to the mix. All right, that's good. Thank you. Wow, what an ugly mix here that we have. Man, anger certainly is not a beautiful or a sweet thing. So let's real quickly review what we have in here. First, we had sourness. Anger starts out as sourness, just like sour milk. Then when we don't deal with it, it's kind of like the mustard. It begins to color our actions sometimes and our words and our thoughts. Then we don't deal with anger still. It turns into a very deep-rooted thing, so clear we almost don't even remember it's there anymore. It hides, but it's in our heart, and it begins to come out to everyone, and we lash out at people. But then the last stage of anger is when it's just pure bitter. It's like this vinegar. It has a bitter taste, a bitter smell, and it's affecting our whole heart in a very terrible way. So, you know, God didn't create us to be full of hatred and anger. He created us to be a loving person that demonstrates the love of Christ, that contributes to our churches and our society in a positive way. It was never God's will for us to be full of all the bitterness and the hatred and the anger that we've looked at here today. I want to read you a scripture that is in Ephesians. Ephesians 4:31 says, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice." Ephesians is teaching us we need to get rid of these things. We need to put them away from us. They're not good for us to have in our hearts and our lives. Let's take a look at this final concoction of all these ugly and nasty ingredients. Let's see what it looks like when it's blended. Will my assistant help me out here? Let's drop it in there.
I think it's going to look gross.
You think it's going to look gross? Go ahead and hold it down. Okay. All right. So here is the ugly mess of sin that we have. Addison, would you like to drink this?
No.
Come in where they can see you. Would you like to drink it?
No.
Why wouldn't you like to drink it? Stand close. I'm not going to make you drink it. I'm just asking a question. Smell it. Does it smell good? No. I can promise you there's an awful smell. An awful smell. And I'm sure an awful taste if someone was brave enough to drink it. And let me assure you guys, anger that's not dealt with has an awful taste, has an awful smell, and people around you, they won't want to be around you when you have anger in your life. But there is an answer. There is a strategy for getting rid of anger. Like I just read you in Ephesians, we can pray and ask Jesus to help us get rid of it. But I want to share this thought with you, and in a minute I'll have the picture for you to see it as well. We can get rid of anger and find our way out of anger by using God's GPS. See, God's GPS, there's 3 steps and 3 ways to deal with anger. Number 1, the G stands for go to the person or go to the situation. The person that you're angry at, the situation that you're angry at, if possible, go to them, talk to them. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's something you can work out with just conversation. Go to them if it's possible and see if you can just talk things out. The P stands for pray. Pray for the Lord's forgiveness on that person, on you. Pray about the situation. Pray with the person that you're angry at if it's possible. But pray your way out of that anger.
Pray.
And then lastly, the S is seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness from God for yourself. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself. But then the person who you've been angry, it's not always easy to forgive, especially in extreme circumstances where maybe you really were done wrong and you maybe were right to have the anger. But, you know, anger hurts you and bitterness hurts you. Unforgiveness hurts you, not the person that you're angry at. Allow God to wash that anger out of you. Because, you know what? The person you're angry at is not the one who's dealing with this garbage. You are. This is what's in your heart. You're dealing with it. So use God's GPS and let Him help you find your way out of anger. All right, assistant, can you turn off our camera for us? We look forward to seeing you again for the next Bible lesson, guys. Have a great day.